You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hi.
Poor Victoria. Please,
I have laryngitis, everybody.
Well,
It's
so
not
it
good.
goes. Happens to the best of us.
yeah. Well, I'm really excited about my topic. So I'm just gonna go right in. So there's this
Jump in. Let's do it.
Yeah. So there's this thing in cartoons that I expected to see whenever I rolled in to like a small town. We're not talking about quicksand. We already talked about quicksand. So
that was my first thought when you said that. I was like, oh my God, we're doing quicksand again? Okay,
Is it
something
an
else from
anvil
cartoons.
landing on your head
How-
and then you surviving?
Ooh, that
Pianos falling from the sky?
no.
Coyotes on roller skates.
Not quite that one either. But you guys are you're both getting
High
a little
noon
closer.
shootouts.
So I always expected to see these whenever I rolled into a small town, or even when I took my trip out through Wyoming. I didn't see these, and I was disappointed. But
Tumbleweed.
yes, this week
Yes.
I'm talking about tumbleweeds. But
All right, cool.
yeah, because like the iconic brambles of like twigs just blowing around on the road, I never really thought much about it until I did. Like all of a sudden I started having
Well, that's true of everything, Rachel. You don't think about it until you do.
Well, yeah, but I got sent this article about tumbleweeds, and then I had so
Right.
many questions. So we're gonna build up to it. So some of those were
Okay.
like, where are tumbleweeds? Where do they come from? Are they alive? How do they form? Why are they only blowing across isolated and deserted towns? How big do they get? What is up with tumbleweeds? So I had all of these questions.
Right.
First things
Let's do it.
that I learned was that there are actually several species of plant that create tumbleweeds, or tumbleweed-like
Oh, okay.
things all over the world.
I figured it was just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's actually a seed dispersal method, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
It's not just in America, it's all over the world, and they all have different looks and kind of different brambles and like tumbly looking tumbleweeds, okay?
Gotcha.
And though it's a huge symbol in the West, but the big one the iconic tumbleweed that we all picture in our heads that was all over in cartoons and stuff is
Right.
something
In Westerns, yeah.
and in Westerns is actually called the Russian thistle, which is
Oh, really?
highly invasive
Oh, good.
and was introduced in the 1870s to South Dakota. It was actually introduced by accident.
Oh, like many things. Yep.
Like many things. They think that it was like mixed in. The seeds were mixed into a bag of flaxseed to someone who immigrated into
Oh, sure.
South
Sure.
Dakota. So
That was a big thing where people would bring their own seeds so they could get their
Mhm.
farm started.
exactly. So what is a tumbleweed? So tumbleweeds are actually something called a diaspore, which is a seed dispersal method of plants. And what happens is, or primarily, especially with the Russian thistle, is when they get mature and after they have like developed their seeds, if the wind is strong enough, which oftentimes it is, because where these plants grow and happen are in pretty arid parts of the country and parts of the world.
Right.
They once they dry out, quite literally the whole top, like the stem, everything from the roots just die off. And once they like die off, they break off and just start tumbling away. Now,
Right. I mean, in order for that to work, the plant has to be kind of spherical in shape. Yes.
generally speaking, yes, but it doesn't have to be, because
Okay.
as it's going around, as it's being pushed by the wind, branches
Tumbled.
and tumbled, it is like we do with rocks. It's getting those random branches that are sticking out that don't help moving it. Those break off.
Oh, okay.
So it makes it a little
So it
bit.
achieves
That was
a rounded
not something
shape.
I'd considered.
Yeah, so it achieves that round shape. It doesn't just have it. The living plant,
Gotcha.
the Russian thistle, when it's alive, it actually has really beautiful, like reddish purple stems and these gorgeous flowers.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So when it snaps off at the roots and it blows away, and it disperses seeds wherever it ends up tumbling. This is about 250,000 seeds per plant.
Ooh,
Oh my.
So
wow.
that's quite a few seeds per plant.
Did you happen to come across any information about like the success rate of those seeds? Are they like the germination rate? Are they 250,000 seeds, like 200,000 end up in new plants, or is it pretty low? Or did you see that by chance?
I didn't see that exact number, no.
Okay.
But I did, from the research that I was able to do, Russian thistle doesn't need a ton of precipitation, and actually because so it's called a diaspore, but what happens is Russian thistle, whenever it coincides with any sort of precipitation or water, it actually will like swell up and just stay rooted there, and it all of a sudden not all of a sudden, but it'll germinate and start a new plant there and start setting off root and root shoots. And it's really good at exploiting like disturbed land, like agricultural fields, overgrazed rangelands,
road ditches,
even like it's just very, very good at what it does. Now, here's a question. When you picture a tumbleweed, how big are you expecting this to be? Because me personally, I'm thinking like little, like it comes up halfway through my like shin level of.
Oh, I was picturing like 3 feet around, probably.
Right.
So like 24 to 36 inches.
So here's the thing about tumbleweeds. One, they never really stop spreading, but they are really good at tangling together. So Russian thistle.
Okay.
One Russian thistle can be. I saw one that was up to 6 feet.
Ooh, whoa.
It really
Wow.
truly depends.
That would like bowl you over.
Yeah, so generally speaking, they're anywhere from like 6 inches to 3 feet tall, but some have even gotten to the size of like a Volkswagen Beetle, to the point where there have been
Oh my.
multiple instances in the United States where not only in like the 70s, but recently, like 2019, 2018, there were on April 18th in 2018, because there was so strong of winds, there was a bunch of tumbleweeds that came into Victorville, California, and what ended up happening is about 100 to 150 homes actually required help from public services to get out of their homes because the tumbleweeds quite literally made it impossible for them to get out of their house.
My gosh.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
because what happened was it quite literally they all compiled and kept piling up, and
Yeah.
those piles, what was the number? It's I'll send you a picture, or I won't send you a picture right now, but just okay.
Sounds amazing.
I can't send you a picture right now, obviously, but there was a pretty widespread photo of two like fully grown adult men holding this giant thistle above this giant tumbleweed above their heads, because what was happening is these tumbleweeds had quite literally like buried some of the houses, and they were at least partially blocked off and they couldn't get out because they're
Wow.
tumbleweeds, and you think of them as being generally pretty light, but you got to remember that these plants they're dead, but they're either large or they're all of the entire plant. And not only that, but they're dense and they're covered in thorns.
Ooh, I did not realize they were thorny
thorns.
too.
They're thorny plants.
That's
so it makes it
unpleasant.
really hard for removal. It just
Rachel, it sounds
Yeah.
like a real thorny situation.
Ugh.
That was terrible.
Sorry, did I mention that I'm a dad? I'm allowed to make terrible jokes, right? Okay.
Yeah, you are.
Just, if you don't use that card, they take it away. So.
Oh, good. Just like your naturalist card.
Right. We went over that. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, not only does it require help, those instances require help from public services. It also is a huge fire hazard because these places are very arid.
Oh yeah,
And
that was
these
my
are-
first thought was the fire.
They're a huge fire hazard. So the fire department also helped clean up the massive tumbleweed invasion.
Wow.
In Washington, on December 31st in 2019, there were enough tumbleweeds, and with the high winds, the tumbleweeds piled up 15 to 20 feet deep in some areas.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
They buried
That's
cars
crazy.
and trucks, and they closed the Washington State Route 240 for 10 hours.
Oh man,
They used snow plows to remove the tumbleweeds.
that is nuts.
So tumbleweeds are just insane and crazy, but when I saw how big they could get and how much of an issue they are, because they are they're literally running around with the wind, and it's a really smart dispersal method of seeds because you get really far away when you're using the wind. You're literally tumbling around from your original spot. So it's really quite ingenious of the plants to utilize that method, but I didn't know that they could get that big. So I wanted to share some of just the craziness that is tumbleweeds.
Wow,
that's-
thank you.
Yeah.
Super cool. Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, it'll be Victoria.
Just a reminder to everybody that this month we're asking everyone to share us with a friend. That's right. That's all we're asking. Just share us with a friend. If you're enjoying the show, go ahead and reach out to a friend and say, hey, have you heard of Strange by Nature? The more we grow, the more we can do. So we appreciate all of you. And we appreciate that this month, all month long, you are sharing us with a friend. So thanks for doing that. And we'll get you back to the show.
Hey, we're back. You're going to have to bear with my voice here. I'm hoping it's going to hold out for this entire segment, but we shall see. It's been a rough few days in the throat of Victoria.
Your
All
poor
right.
throat.
Poor Victoria.
Well, yeah, poor Victoria. We believe in you and we're here to support. I'm excited to hear what you have today.
Well,
Yes,
you
we're all
guys can't
excited.
see what I have in front of me right now. I have a mug which has a ginger honey lemon concoction in it. I have a glass of water, and I have my cough drops all laid out. So I'm going to
beautiful.
just pop in that cough drop right now.
How exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay, let's get started. So when you're taught in school about the history of human beings, there's a kind of dividing line, right, between the prehistoric societies that existed before agriculture was invented, and then you learn agriculture started like maybe 10,000 years ago,
Sure.
right around when that last ice age was starting to end, or pretty much done ending.
Ah, yeah,
So,
that one.
yeah. So there's this imaginary line 10,000 years ago, at least in my head. So on the near side of that line, you got your crops, your domesticated animals, metallurgy, the development of civilizations, etc., leading finally to us.
Right.
On the far side of that line, you have your small bands of hunter-gatherers running around hunting woolly mammoths with stone tools.
Okay.
I'm really
Right.
intrigued to see
I
where
mean,
you're
that-
going.
That is what I was taught.
Yeah. I mean, of course, that line is a lie because
Right,
the
yeah.
transition was by no means abrupt. And of course, there are still some peoples in this world who live more or less, Paleolithic lifestyle.
Right.
Yep.
But I'm saying all this as background because that's my kind of schema, even if I know it's not exactly right. I still found it completely mind-blowing when I learned today's strange fact,
Ooh,
which is
okay.
that the last woolly mammoths
Oh.
only died in about 2000 BCE.
Hold on. What? Okay. The pyramids were done about 6,000 BCE.
Mm. Yep. Well, not quite that
What?
long, but
I actually thought it. Yeah, I've heard there were some pockets of holdouts.
yeah.
Okay.
So just for comparison, a few historical landmarks to place ourselves in time here. Wheat had been cultivated in Mesopotamia for about 6,000 years by that point.
Okay.
Okay.
Rice had been cultivated for about 3,500 years in China. Woven silk fabric had been produced in China for about 700 years.
Oh man.
Okay.
The pyramids of Egypt had been around it was 500
It was
years.
500. Oh,
Rachel, not 6,000. Yeah.
maybe I was thinking from now to back then. Never mind.
Yeah. And if you remember learning about the Epic of Gilgamesh in school, it's kind of like the oldest poem story known. The stories it was based on had already been written.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
A long time ago, but not that long.
Right.
Yeah.
So these mammoths, most of the mammoths died off around 10,000 years ago. That's around 8,000 BCE. And scientists still debate about which is more to blame, the changing climate at the end of the Ice Age or the fact that people really like to hunt big, tasty animals. And sometimes they don't stop until they're all gone.
I mean, it could
Right.
be both.
Could be both.
Basically we're blaming barbecue.
Yeah. I mean, mammoth barbecue is probably delicious,
I mean, yeah.
right?
Especially
There's some
like
mesquite wood in there, and yeah.
it was probably really like fatty too. So like you do it like a brisket or something. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna turn into like a Paleolithic cooking show suddenly here.
Mammoth brisket.
It probably tastes a bit like elephant, honestly, and I've never tasted elephant, so I really can't comment.
I don't want to taste elephant.
No, nor I.
Anyway,
But, my isolated populations of mammoths did still hang on in a few remote places. And the most remote place was on Wrangel Island.
Oh, okay, yeah, this starting
What?
to sound familiar.
Yeah,
But there was an
Wrangel
island,
Island. It's Wrangel, Wrangel.
okay.
That's where
so
Wrangler
that's-
jeans come from.
Ah, good. to
It's a
know.
pretty large island. It's no, not.
No, it's not.
It's about 7,600 square kilometers in size, or 2,900 square miles, and it is located at the border of the Chukchi Sea, which is north of the Bering Strait, and the East Siberian Sea. So basically, it's north of the far eastern part of Siberia.
Okay.
And,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Cold,
Yeah.
remote, not easy to get to.
Frozen north. Yes.
Apparently, a small population of mammoths got trapped there by the rising seas at the end of the last ice age.
Sure.
Yeah. And they managed to hang on until they started dying off about 4,000 years ago, which perhaps not coincidentally was about the time that the first humans showed up on Wrangel Island, according to the archaeological evidence. Yeah.
Didn't help.
Back to our barbecue hypothesis.
Yes.
Yeah. Some interesting genetic evidence about these mammoths was uncovered in 2017 by a team of biologists from the University of North Carolina and Berkeley. And they actually had the DNA sequence of a 4,300-year-old mammoth specimen, a single mammoth from Wrangel Island. It was extracted from some bone, I believe.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And they compared it to another mammoth from mainland Siberia that was 43,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So an order of magnitude
Right.
older. And also with a living Asian elephant.
Right.
Okay.
Kind of to see what the genes do.
What they might look like and how they might have changed.
Yeah, change over time and all that. Yeah.
Evolution.
Lay it on us. What'd they find out?
So, big surprise. It's going to be a shocker, guys. It turns out if you have a small population isolated for a very long time, inbreeding happens and you get genetic problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Huge surprise.
They compared several. Headline news. They compared several genes between the two mammoths, and they found that there were numerous mutations that would likely have made the Wrangel Island mammoths less fit. For example, some of the genes regulating their sense of smell and also the production of urinary proteins, which are used for marking territory, were not working.
Ooh.
Huh.
So, likely the mammoths couldn't really smell very well and would have had a tough time communicating via scent markings, which is pretty key for most mammal species, I think, including elephants.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, if that's less important on an island than other
maybe
places.
use other
perhaps
methods like, sound.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big island, but still.
Yeah.
Go on.
Okay, this next one is really kind of freaky. It also had a mutation in a single gene that's known as FOXQ1. And one of the things that gene controls is the hair. So it produces something called a satin coat in mice and rabbits and other highly bred domestic animals. Yeah.
No.
So the hairs, they have an abnormal structure that makes them translucent and extra shiny. So
they were very luxurious woolly mammoths.
Yes.
They're shiny mammoths.
Silky, shiny coats.
Oh my gosh.
That really changes my perception.
So they can't smell. They have
looked
this beautiful.
fabulous.
Of course, it can also cause digestive problems, this gene, in mice at least. So, possibly
that
they
must
would have
explain
had some
why
stomach
my hair
problems.
looks so fabulous.
Oh. It could also be your conditioner.
There was also a later study in 2020 of this same 4,300-year-old mammoth's DNA, and they were looking at some other gene locations. And this other paper indicated that it had mutations that were associated with diabetes, reduced male fertility, and developmental defects.
None of that's good.
Yeah,
No.
those things pose problems in a population that it is kind of small.
Well, it also
do
poses
indeed.
problems when people are like, oh, we should just take this mammoth and clone it. It's like, well, it's maybe not the best representative of the species, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pick a different mammoth. I mean, as you're alluding to, it is the DNA of just one individual. So, there's some caveats about the conclusions we can draw from this. On the other hand,
Sure.
scientists are pretty certain that this population was extremely isolated for thousands of years. And so, it's extremely likely that these mutations were pretty representative.
Well, and there's
the
this
population at that point.
general idea in science that if you're going to find just one of something, the odds are not that you're going to find the abnormality, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's sort of an Occam's razor type situation too, where it's like, what's more likely, that the one you found happened to be different than all the rest, or that the one you found is representative of the majority? It's like, it's way more likely that it was representative of, the majority.
Yeah.
And it's not some completely, random fringe case. Once in a while that can happen, but the odds are not in your favor.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of wrap this up, it's possible that these mammoths were at least partially hunted to death in the end, but it seems like they were on a long decline anyway. So who knows how much longer they would have lasted, really. And honestly, probably their deficits may have made them more vulnerable to hunting.
Well, yeah, everyone wanted those
end,
beautiful shiny coats.
Yeah. They would have had some really nice mammoth fur accoutrement, those hunters.
So good.
All right. I drew on a couple of papers for this episode. One is from PLOS Genetics from March 2017. It's called Excess of Genomic Defects in a Woolly Mammoth on Wrangel Island. And the other is from Genome Biology and Evolution from March 2020. Functional Architecture of Deleterious Genetic Variants in the Genome of a Wrangel Island Mammoth.
There we go.
So if you want to read more, check out those papers.
Some light.
All right, we are going to
reading.
we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it will be Kirk.
Our listeners are going to need some help this week for my segment. They're going to need the two of you to be their eyes. So I have a photo for you, and I want you both to react to this photo and also describe the creature it shows. Are you ready? All right, here it goes. Here it is.
All right. Pulling it up.
Oh, it looks like, okay, here's what it looks like. It looks like a cartoon sheep. Actually, it looks like, those like the Wallace and Gromit guy who does stop motion animation. It looks like a sheep made by that guy.
It looks like
Shawn
Shawn
the sheep. Thank you.
Yeah, Shawn the sheep. Just the face, but then he has long purple ears sticking out to the side, and his entire body is covered by
it looks like a little tiny cactus cacti just like poking out of this sheep's body. Like a bright, like green, the most green thing
tipped with
little
magenta
purple ends.
And it's
a color that doesn't exist.
Adorable, am I right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's super cute. It looks is this a microbe or
what you're
is
looking
this?
at is called,
because it looks like a cartoon.
Yeah, what you're looking at is called a leaf sheep. It lives in the ocean, and it's actually
aptly named.
Exactly. It's a type of sea slug. Now, I think we often don't think of slugs as being all that cute, but oh my gosh.
I mean, I do.
This is like one of the cutest things
so
I've ever
cute.
seen in my entire life.
It's adorable.
And as you pointed out, Victoria, it does look like Shawn the sheep. And so if anyone is familiar with the claymation created by the Wallace and Gromit folks over at Aardman Animation, it does look like something they would have made. Maybe some sort of hijinks that Shawn got mixed up in there. And apparently,
all of his wool got dyed and spiked.
Right. We're not the only ones to think that. Kind of Shawn the sheep has become a bit of an unofficial name for this creature when divers find them in the ocean. So many people have had that thought. This animal was actually first discovered fairly recently. It was back in 1993 off the coast of Kuroshima Island in Japan. And Kuroshima means Black Island, but I was crushed to discover that the major economic industry on the island is actually cattle farming or ranching because I really wanted it to be sheep. You know, that would have just been like such a perfect thing.
Missed opportunity.
Apparently, sometimes it's called the Island of Cows, but I think they're maybe missing a major opportunity to rebrand the island around the leaf sheep.
Mm-hmm.
So as cute as these critters are, and I guess as strange as they look, we got some standards here on the podcast, right? This is strange by nature, not cute by nature, or mildly interesting by nature, correct? So we got to find out what's strange about this cute little critter. Let's talk about those weird...
Because it can't just be it looks weird. It has to be more than
Right, because the listeners can't see it. Although, oh my gosh, if you are not driving right now, pull up a picture of a leaf sheep and just prepare for cute...
It'll be
cute overload.
On our Instagram.
Right.
Go over to our Instagram. Check it out.
So I want to talk about those weird green leaf-like things on their back. So I've seen them compared to like little miniature aloe leaves, and I'm like, maybe. Or maybe like the leaves of goat tail succulent. Have you ever seen those before? Kind of looks like that. Yep. I think that makes sense. So first off, I guess we need to explain they aren't leaves. They are actually part of the animal's body. And they're called serrata. And you'd be forgiven for mistaking them for leaves because they are green. And they are like super green because they actually contain chlorophyll, just like leaves.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So this is super strange.
I was looking at it and it's the picture that you sent, not only it was like sitting on like maybe like a bed of algae or whatever, and I'm like, those are the same greens.
Right.
What?
Well,
they have chlorophyll?
I was looking
That's
at the little leaves, quote unquote leaves, and they have a kind of a granular appearance. And before you told me what it was, I was like thinking that maybe they were chloroplasts inside the tentacly things.
Oh, were you? Well, as we know,
so
animals,
cool.
or as we think we know, right? Animals cannot make chlorophyll, but they clearly have it. So where did it come from? And what's truly bizarre about the leaf sheep is that they practice something called kleptoplasty. And that's the stealing of plastids. And in this case, chloroplasts from plants that they then incorporate into their body. So you are both spot on. The green color of the algae that it's sitting on is the exact same green of the creature because it's the exact same stuff. It is the chloroplasts from their food. So for those of you who are sleeping,
that's so cool.
If you're sleeping in bio class, I just want to go over chloroplasts are the little organelles in plants that contain chlorophyll, aka the green stuff that makes photosynthesis possible. So the leaf sheep feed on fuzzy algae growing on the ocean floor, basically like near coral reefs. And when they eat the algae, they actually ingest the chloroplasts from the algae and incorporate them into their body. And that's what we're seeing, which is
that's
amazing.
That's so
amazing.
That's so cool.
Now, taking these chloroplasts has advantages. So first of all, it makes you the exact same color as your food source. So that gives you some pretty amazing camouflage. I mean, nothing's any better camouflage than looking just like your food, right?
Like a plant.
Yeah.
So that's, from an evolutionary standpoint, that's probably reason enough to do it right there. But more than that, the leaf sheep can actually use the chloroplasts. They are solar powered. Well,
I want to be a solar powered leaf sheep.
At least partially. I actually had a really hard time finding any sources that were able to determine like how long could they survive on just solar power, or what was the percentage of their metabolic energy that can be derived from the chloroplasts. But apparently it's a non-zero percentage. There were many, many science articles out there on the web that talked about this, and this is actually problematic because many of them use phrases like months or several months or a couple months, 2 months, and not a single...
Not exact terminology.
And I'm okay with that, but not a single one of them included a verifiable scientific reference. And I started to kind of feel an awe for that, like the authors were pretty much just copying each other's homework in class without actually, doing their own background reading. They're like, oh, this other, website said a couple months, so we'll say 2 months. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to copy that, so I'll just say months. So I do want to point out that I did not find an actual source that would give me an actual citation on how long they could do that. But apparently they are able to actually use some of the energy to survive. So I'm a little dubious saying anything other than the fact that they get some non-zero energy benefit. We'll leave it at that. Unless one of our awesome listeners can dig up a scientific paper and send it my way, I will definitely give you a shout out on the show if you are successful. That's contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. Do definitely, if you find that, send it to us and we'll mention you on the show. I can say that their entire lifespan is only about 6 months. So they're not real long-lived either way. Now, question time. Looking at the photos, how big would you imagine these creatures are?
Oh, quite small.
I would imagine maybe like 3 or 4 centimeters. I don't know. You mentioned that divers could see them and they spotted them. So they have to be more than, like, the picture you sent made it seem like it was a microbe or even smaller.
Okay.
But the fact or like not necessarily micro, but like really, really, really small.
I'd say.
But I feel like you're gonna say like they're a couple inches.
I think 1 centimeter max.
1 centimeter max. So, when I first saw them, my reaction was actually a bit different. I was thinking, they might be like the size of the palm of your hand or like a little, maybe a 2 or 3 inches or something like that. I was way off. You guys are closer, but still too big. They are only about 7 to 8 millimeters at their largest.
Oh, they're so tiny.
So less than a centimeter.
So I was pretty close.
Yeah, you were very close. They're very tiny. And this makes sense when you think about like the photosynthesis bit. One of the reasons animals do not use photosynthesis is that it doesn't provide enough energy, right? I mean, I think we've all maybe dreamt of being like, I just wish I could lay out in the sun, get all my energy for the day or whatnot. But there's just no way we could have the surface area to generate enough energy for us to do really anything. Right? Being so small, though, the energy needs... Yeah. Lots of leaves, right?
Lots of leaves.
So being so small, the energy needs of the slug are much less. And the photosynthesis can actually provide some sort of tangible benefit. Again, though, to be clear, they are likely getting most of their energy from the eating of the algae. And this is sort of a secondary, source of energy. They are small, but in theory, you could go looking for some if you know where to look. They are actually fairly widespread now that we know what to look for. They've been seen in more places than just that one island in Japan. They've also been identified in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Thailand, Singapore, as far east as the Solomon Islands. So quite a large area, really. And that's what I got. I just wanted to introduce this incredibly cute miniature solar powered animal, the leaf sheet. So my sources this week were Uniguide, BBC, and Wikipedia.
Honestly, this picture made my day.
Oh, good.
Oh, it's so cute. Thanks, Kirk.
You are welcome. And thanks to everybody for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.